And spawning over the northwesternly side as our blue Protoss, it is ArT. You know, Platinum Heroes so far, Goblin taking that win over there. ArT's obviously doing quite well as well. Quite a decent roster to get things going. I like what I'm seeing from them so far, but, you know, I do love this Terran over on the other side of the map. I'm a big fan of Clem. You know, it's been so fun watching him grow up. Like before our very eyes, we got to see Serral do it. Then we saw Reyna do it, like where they just kind of, you know, shot onto the scene. It was like, hey, Clem just followed suit as well, and he's kind of the king of Europe when it comes to the European only section. But yeah, it has been a week where upsets have been plenty. So, you know, I'm going to hold my breath for a little bit here.
Yeah, that's the fun part about it, right? Is you have the guys that we're kind of ruling out a little bit, just going into it. We don't know necessarily that they have the skills to go for the super long game or the stamina or the experience, whatever it is. Clem has competed at the highest level. He's won the tournaments. He's gotten those big championships, and he has been one of those people that can kind of take it to the top European players like Serral, like Rayner. We know that he can compete. So you're coming in as ArT, you know, you've got to find a way to try and make up for that. And at least in that series we saw with Max Pax and Goblin, for Goblin it was, I don't care if he even knows that I'm going to all in him every game. It's what I have to do to win, and execution is the most important thing. And that's a great perspective to take in StarCraft, and ArT should be thinking something similar. Execution is going to decide it 99% of the time, but your strategy can limit the opportunities for mistakes to impact the outcome. So if you want to get it all done early, you want to bring that pressure, I think that's a great idea. Try to get that early lead. But Clem, I expect him to make fewer unforced errors throughout the game, and that should give him an advantage if this one goes long.
Yeah, and it's, even though, you know, my little Terran heart, I'm like, yeah, well, Protoss can force it to be a really short game if they want to. If you're as good as Clem, you can really limit that. Like, everything that he's doing here. So what does he have? He has one Reaper out on the map. He has the second one joining, a Hellion as well. Wow. Even a third Reaper. He's playing very TVT-esque.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. It's exactly what I was going to say. It's a very TVT-esque build. He went double gas. It was still an expansion. It's not for some proxy. It's not for some cheese. But he wants to have, I mean, 2 Reapers and a Hellion can kill a Stalker out on the field. It can kill an Adept out on the field. 2 of them together gets a little bit tricky. But he's kind of doing this option where he doesn't feel like he's being proxied. He's not being proxied. So he doesn't have to worry about an Oracle running in and him not having anti-air. And he can still do a mine drop out of this. He can still run the Reapers into the main while the mines hit the natural. There's a couple of different ways to play it, but he's going for map control. And more importantly, these guys could have scouted if there was anything outside of his base too. So let's see what Clem gets done here. If he boops the Stalker to the side and the Hellions run to the main, like, things can get awkward. Even just killing a few probes seems to be what his goal is, just ravage the natural.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, there is an Adept right now, which will help, would deal a little bit of damage, but holy crap, 8 probes going down. Like,
catastrophic.
You know, I'm always thinking, what kind of tech do I need to do to deal damage to a Protoss? And Clem's like, you know what? Hold the phone. Let's just make a bunch of units right early on the get-go. And look, 11 probes going down at the start of the game. This is not what you want if you're ArT at all.
We're talking about how it looks like a TVT build. He YOLOs them in like it's a TVT. Says, yeah, your Stalker can kill my units. Yeah, sure. We don't do well versus armored, but you don't have a complete wall off. So we're just going in. And this is where things get a little bit dicey. The bunker is on the way. It's not done just yet. Should be done in time for this, I think. But the tank has only just begun. And while that mine drop could deal a lot of damage to the probes, there's not a lot here to actually defend this, and the bunker's not ready. Marines are already starting to die before he can get anything in. The body block from ArT says, "Nuh-uh, you're not going anywhere." And this is exactly what we were talking about. The Widowmine is going to get a single probe in the natural. If he can defend the one in the main base and continue to deal damage, the things start to open up a little bit, and he will take a Stalker with that mine before he lifts up. But this is such a problem. The siege tank should be able to clear out the ramp, but he still cannot mine off the natural. This bunker should be killed. And because of the size of this natural, he can also just kind of sit back until that tank tries to come down the ramp. I'd love to see him use that use the shade to check the ramp for when that tank comes down, because until it does, those Stalkers could bully him, but he's just going to bring everything home. He's ready to move on.
That's when you knew you got a chaotic game where they're both supply stuck at 54 out of 54. Like, Clem did not anticipate that being as strong as it was, but ArT, I mean, the fact that he pounced on that and he did the body blocking that you talked about, that was really sick by him. This Widowmine, though, will it be spotted? 5 probes going down for his trouble. Oh,
and the other one just runs in. Oh, no. Yeah, that hurts. That stings. Stings a little bit. So 30 probes to 35 SCVs. He does kill the mine there, but we have to keep in mind as well, usually Protoss is ahead of probes on Terran. That's what the mules are for. They kind of bring it back to even. But now he's ahead on SCVs, and he has the mules. So his income is looking fantastic. Clem is making a lot of money right now. And this means in the next minute or so, if ArT isn't able to do something to offset that or gain a little bit of a foothold back, we should be seeing Clem with a huge push on 2 bases. I don't know if he wants to go to the 3rd here, but he's going to have an option to go for a very strong attack with a lot of units.
Yeah, definitely. That was a lot of no reaction from ArT when it came to dealing with these Widowmines. And obviously Clem's really fast, but yeah, that was definitely catching him off guard with quite a bit of the multitasking. But we'll see what ArT chooses to get done here. He does have an observer, so he can see absolutely everything that's going on in his opponent's base. He has a 3rd on the way. He's going for a lot of tech here as well. Charge on the go, getting the Robo base started as well. Forge coming online, so he's going to have a lot of upgrades coming online very soon. And even if he doesn't get damage, just kind of containing his opponent can be nice. But we do know that this map does have that back 3rd base location, which Clem, if all things go pretty badly, he can at least start utilizing that. Oh, Stim is quite vulnerable there.
Yeah, he has the siege tank to try to cover this, but like you were saying, that tech lab is a bit extended out. Hey, the stalkers have to move up though, because if the Marines completely cut off the retreat path, that Stim, well, it won't be done yet. He won't really have any room to go away from it. So Banshee kills the Adept on the, or almost kills it, excuse me, on the outside of that base. But that should be a heads up for ArT that he has to worry about that. There's no cloak, by the way. So he'll build the shield batteries, but he's not really at risk of like, oh, it's going to cloak and just kill the probes anyway. No, you can't do that.
No, definitely not. And I mean, it's always a bit of a worry, right? When you see a Banshee, because it's like, you have to respect the cloak, even if it's not there, just because of how this game went and you've taken a bit of damage. So you don't know exactly where your opponent is or where you are almost. But Clem will be starting that move out. And this, with 3 tanks, in fact, is it four tanks in the mix? That is quite a juicy army, and I don't think ArT has much idea where Clem is on the map at all. And I mean, this doesn't have a medevac with it currently, but Clem, okay, that was nice, just using a single Marine to spot there just to see what's going on.
Now, this is where it can be a little bit dicey, though, because Clem, you can see that he wants to push in here. The Colossus against stimmed Marines without combat shields can do a lot of damage, but 4 siege tanks, well, they can deal the same amount back. So he does get a nice siege position, and because that army moves to the north side of the Nexus, I think that makes it a pretty easy pickoff here for Clem if he focuses it. He's still playing back with the Marines. He doesn't want to get force fielded, but he is going to try as this Nexus gets popped. Zealots charge forward. Marines are going to step behind the tanks and let them soak it. I think what he needs to do is try to get a little bit of target fire onto the Colossus if he can from the tanks, but everything else is just going to die to the bio, and that's exactly what happens. Scan even gets the observer, and that's it. GG, baby. Clem goes up 1-0.
Clem just went, I came, I saw, I conquered right there with that little tank move out, and yeah, it was quite spicy early on. For a second, I started getting really worried for Clem when it was like, oh no, that bunker, 3 health away from finishing, and then all the Marines died trying to get into it as well. But yeah, that was a nice first game to start it off, and it definitely showcased that ArT is dangerous, but it was also an exceptionally unfortunate start for him. Like 11 probes going down to 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. I mean, granted, it's not the most orthodox opening by Clem, but I felt that it was not orthodox for a reason, that I didn't think it was going to do that much, but geez Louise, yeah, that was a bad opening, but nice counterattack by him, but then just a messy situation.
Yeah, it was chaos, and it's not like he didn't get damage done, right? It was a great play on the bunker, great play on the natural, but it kind of like you were saying, the reaction time on the defensive side was just not there. The Widowmine walking in to the natural and getting 5 probes, huge. The Widowmine dropping in the back of the main base later on, right, with 2 health on it, and then getting 5 probes there, huge. So yeah, you killed some SCVs, but if the Terran kills your probes and you're even on workers, the Terran is always going to be happy with that, because that's when those mules really put you ahead on the income side of things. So not able to get that powerhouse Protoss economy like ArT was hoping, and we move on to game 2. Do you think he turns up the heat on Data C? Do we get a little bit more aggressive action out of him, or is it just going to be a little bit more of this straightforward back and forth?
You know, I'm not sure. Like, Terrans have definitely opted more for this, like, 2-gas stuff. And I think it came alive with Hero really coming alive in PvT. Like at, when was it? Was it Valencia where did Hero beat Maru? No. Never mind. It was one of these situations where I do recall Hero just playing totally wild against a player like Maru. And then it was like, oh, a lot of Protosters started following suit and being a little wild. And then Terrans were like, you know what? I'm going to start being a little bit wild as well. And it just kind of spiraled out of control. But yeah, here to start things off on day to C, spawning over in the far right-hand side is our red Terran. It is Team Liquid's Clem.
And in the bottom left, we have the blue Protoss player. He is ArT.
Liquid Clam, as Cyril called him.
Clam. Does anybody even do you know that there's the Clam person too, and nobody knows who they are? What if Liquid Clam could be Max Packs? You know, they could all. He's kind of like Schrodinger's human, right? Could literally be anybody and simultaneously nobody at the same time.
You mean the Twitch chat guy?
Yeah, could be. Yeah,
I haven't seen that guy in a while actually, but is he still around, Liquid Clam?
I don't know. I mean, you can definitely get seafood-borne illness from clams, so you got to be careful. Maybe you eat a bunch of clams. Maybe he's just been a little bit out of it recently. That's the best analysis I think I can give on that. But to your point earlier, I won't lie. With the amount of like proxy play, and especially the early gateway pressure, like that build where you do the second gateway forward really early on, I find that those builds are so freaking annoying to play against in TVP that, those TVT builds where you go for the double gas and then you maybe like pull an SCV off gas, you know what I'm talking about, and you just try to get up to that factory a little bit faster while still getting the expansion, just in case. I feel like this was somewhere TVP had to go from there so that Terrans could deal with those types of plays a little bit more easily. When your Reaper pops out and there's a Stalker and a Zealot, you're in for a bad time. But when you can get those extra couple units out just a little bit faster, or have a Mine or a Cyclone if you need it, that really turns the tides. So it's made TVP a little bit more interesting. And I think it's probably because, like you were saying, especially with somebody like Hero, who really, really knows how to make Terran players cry.
Yeah, certainly. This, by the way, from Clem, this brings me back to like Team Liquid Bunny. He would do things like this as well, where he would skip out on the Reaper initially, get a reactor, then get a Reaper and a Marine. And doing it that way does feel more efficient. Like your reactor's a little bit faster. You're a little bit less safe very early on. But as long as nothing ridiculous happens to you, and ArT does get the scout that it is a Reaper. And Clem, on his side of things, like maybe does a little bit of a boop back into the Marines here. Oh, not quite. ArT is moving around, but I think this Adept, it's going to be in a little bit of trouble here. But does get away.
Nice job keeping the Reaper alive, too, using that range as well. Yeah, it's just one hit either way could have turned it around. If that boop had gotten into the Marines, though, it would have been a highlight-worthy moment. Not something we get to see enough of. But otherwise, from ArT this time, very standard. Blink, I guess we could expect, yep, there's the robotics facility, so move into observers. You have a lot of angles to try and poke from if you want to go with the blink on this one. Yeah, that Reaper cliff doesn't work, by the way. There's no amount of buildings you can put there to stop someone from jumping up there. Endrant. And the Hellion gets into the natural, so it's just another one of those tiny things. Like the Stalker's got to be there for that. The Reaper can't be allowed to jump in, but if the Reaper doesn't get up there, then his attention's on the natural, and then these Hellions don't do so much. So it's a bit of a cascading effect.
That feat, I mean, that was a nice little warp in there, but losing 5 probes to a moment where it's like, you don't expect to have a Reaper be able to get inside your base. Yeah, that's just very unfortunate. And Clem, he hopped up there. He was like, you know what? I'll do the grenade jump. And then it's like, wait a minute. I can just hop back down and then hop back in. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's like the one-way Reaper cliffs. Everybody's tried to get so fancy. At first, it was like, well, we need Reaper cliffs so that Terrans can scout. And then they're like, well, Terran players don't want the Reaper cliffs because then there's too much Reaper cheese. And then they're like, okay, so we'll make it a double cliff with one spot. And then now there's like 7 points that you can jump up and down from one way, but you're never certain. It's like, oh, maybe I can go in, but I can't get out. Or maybe I could get out if I run through the natural, but can't go back in. And yeah, Yeah, it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. But it turns into a bit of a rough start again for ArT. He still has a probe lead, so he's not lost that crazy amount, but it's definitely not the spot that he'd like to be. And if this Raven can get 3-ish probes, then I think things start to get a bit dicey once again.
I do like that he's gone for a Raven on this map as well. Like, very often I'm looking at this map and I'm like, whenever you have dead air space behind not just 1 but 2 bases, or even 3 in some case situations, it's always so nice because it means that you have to be watching multiple spots and be wary of multiple spots. ArT will get the scout. He's got the 3rd base up now and did manage to get away with that. Okay, the observer. Clem, very good at seeing that, so does get to keep the vision outside of his base. But when those big 3 upgrades come online, Stim, Combat Shields, and +1, along with that Raven being in the back of the base, that's where ArT is going to start clenching his butt cheeks.
Yeah, that's never, it's never a good time. And going back to what makes this map a butt clenching map is that you have, especially versus Terran, so much airspace. That Raven can just park itself behind you forever. So unless you want to build a Phoenix for no reason, which would be bad against everything else the Terran will build, you're just kind of stuck dealing with him throwing auto turrets at your mineral line all game. And if you don't know a whole lot about the auto turret DPS, then even a shield battery is not going to stop an auto turret from getting a few probes, especially if he waits to drop 2 at once. Then it just gets ugly. So it's going to be a little bit of a mini backstab while the rest of the army moves towards the 3rd. I do think the setup at the 3rd is nice to defend, but there you go. He's got 3 probes killed. Not bad for that turret. And here comes the army on the 3rd.
There's a Colossus here to greet it, and the medevacs haven't joined up with the army yet. And there's how many tanks here this time? Just 2. Very patient by Clem, by the way. Like, me with that Raven, I'd have been like, boom, 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 dropping like 2-3 turrets, you know? But he was like, you know what? Just one's going to do the job. And you see how he's setting everything up. That's a nice little probe that we'll see those medevacs flying there into the main base. But there's going to be 3 spots here where ArT has to look out for. So he blinks into his main base. He's pulling back with his army in that 3rd base as well. And Clem, he's just setting this up really damn annoying at this point.
Yeah, so the drop hits the main base. You still have the Raven behind your natural. And there he goes. Finally, you're out of position. He's going for the 3rd base. And he might be willing to fight this army since he's got rid of both of the shield batteries, siege tanks, insta-gib. One of the Colossus needs to focus fire on the other. It's getting a little bit low. It's lost its shield. I think this is a pretty big dive opportunity, and he's going to go for it. Colossus stepping back with a force field, but there's still a Marauder making its way downtown. Can he get the pickup? Yes, he does. There's the drop. Just needs to click on it, and he gets it at the last moment. The probes try to make the save, but Muslim, I think we know in TVP, you take out those power units, you take away the Protost's power in general.
Yeah, and they take a long time to build up, man. And Clem, he's still got that Raven in the back of the natural. I think it's moving in now, and it's got a lot of energy, and he's being so patient about it, being so damn annoying. And yeah, that Raven has been really damn good. And I mean, even though it hasn't necessarily got a ton of kills single-handedly, just it being another spot that he has to constantly worry about, and he's got no way of dealing with it right now. And Clem, he's just getting ready. He's got the army at the north side, army on the east side. He got a Raven in the back. What an annoying play for any Protoss player to have to deal with.
Yeah, and that's the advantage that he gets to use here on Data C. So many angles to go in for those punches. That's why I was kind of wondering if we'd see ArT bring the aggression early on, but he once again finds himself in a macro game with a player that is just moving at a crazy fast speed. Now he has the Widow Mines to back it up. If he tries to make a chase play, if he tries to run into this, he's going to eat a lot of damage. Good blink back to bait the shots. The armory is not ready, so the mines are still being revealed after they shoot, but Cybernetics core is going to get popped. He immediately restarts another one. It's going to be a little delay on rebuilding Stalkers and Sentries, but he's just pumping everything into that Robo, getting some extra charge Zealots, going for the Disruptors, and Disruptors, as we know, can always be a powerful comeback unit if used correctly.
Thing is, what's he going to have to come back from here? Like Clem, SCV count, he's actually a little bit ahead. I know it's fairly close in that regard, but ArT, how does he go about getting up a 4th base when he's in this kind of situation? And that Raven, like I keep thinking about it, man. Like Clem's going to start his 4th base now. ArT he's struggling here. He's struggling to stay alive. 2 Ghost Academy start. I think that's a little bit of a misstep, but that's about the only mistake that Clem's made in this game so far.
Well, you know, he needs Cloak and that EMP upgrade at the same time, right? He's first shot's gonna hit just a Marauder. Second Disruptor goes right past the army and gets popped. So now he has to move away from the shield battery if he wants to defend his natural. Clem can kind of stim and micro his way through the natural, or he can pull back. The Widowmines get a couple of hits too coming through. There's a full energy Raven here. Just drop the turrets. Oh, interference matrix on the Colossus, and the Disruptor shuts it all down completely. And the Colossus move commands through into the bio. That's it. GG, Clem.